Hello, my friends, and welcome to this extra early Father's Day video. And by the time I put this up, it will be Father's Day. So, I want to actually talk about the person I've forgotten in my life since I was 13, and that's my dad. See, everybody knows about the old man, which was my stepdad, but not many people know about the man before him, which was my dad. And as you can tell by this old picture, is basically a salvage picture of something that was found on my birthday. So backstory about that is um, among the main things that happened on my birthday, I received a book, a drum book that, give me a moment while I actually pull this out. I should have done this before I started, but anyway, this book that my brother found while he was cleaning some stuff out was called the Harry A. Bauer System, and it was a very old book. And during its time, it was like it's very cheap. We're talking like a book for the drums, the bells, the xylophone, and the timpani. Which is so funny because that's what I've been doing since I started going into therapy, which is basically drums. Well, one of the few things I found in said book are some old pictures of my dad when he was young. And there were like two out of the few pictures there were like three pictures. One in which you see here. This is the only one that could probably be salvaged in, say, an okay enough condition to show in a video. And I actually did the following, which was take a picture of it on my phone and then made a screenshot of it when I put it to Twitter, and then after that I'm making a video off it here. That's not what we're talking about. Since it is close to Father's Day, this was the man who actually basically brought drumming into my life. I kind of wish I knew him a lot better in life, and I only knew him for like 13 years. I kind of figured why I don't really talk about him that much. It's not that I didn't have like a healthy relationship with him. No, it was all right, you know, because he basically told me how I should fight my battles. He knew I had it rough, you know, being that I have a disability. And one thing, and the main things he told me in life, and he never called me by my first name. He always said boy, because that's all he called me. He called me boy. He'd only call me by my name if I did something wrong. And he's probably the only man that I ever knew that actually set me on the path of basically never doing anything out of my natural character. He whipped my ass once. And this is before, and this is while he and my mom were married. Well, I wouldn't know during this picture, but this is one of the things he actually did, which, as you can tell, he was a jazz musician. He played the drums, as you can tell on the far right there. And of course, since my last name is Barbarin, well, it does run in my blood with music. Since my mom was a singer and my dad was a drummer, I'm decent in both proficiencies. The only difference is, for me to actually get a good beat going, I had to really listen to it a good couple of times. And I kind of shared that with my therapist. One time, well, actually last Tuesday, we were in the session. And mind you, the session is not just for patients, but staff as well. So it's basically, if staff wanted to come by and they want to sit down with drum and start, get their jam on, they can. It's basically for, therapy purposes. For me, it's not just therapy purposes, but, it's basically a way for me to open up. A way for me to, not feel like I have to go into this act. I can be myself. And, just actually talk. And just share my thoughts and everything, just be myself. That's the one thing my dad couldn't do so well. He couldn't express himself. Which is funny. There are times in which I couldn't express myself. And I can see where I got it from wholeheartedly. Now, as far as music prowess is concerned, yeah, I met one of my relatives through my dad. That's Paul Barbarin. And he was a jazz drummer too. So, as you can tell, it runs in the family. As for me, yeah, as the hybrid artist, I like music. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy music. And since I'm from an older generation, my dad listened to jazz. So therefore, my go-tos as far as music is concerned, outside of the standard fare of listening to video game music, I usually like to listen to the old school style music. I mean, jazz, swing. The old school jazz, as in blues, and then you got the swing jazz, as well as smooth jazz, the one with the rhythm and blues style, and even the acid jazz, which is, rather smooth, even though it has a little sizzle to it. So I kind of I listen to some really good music. And I'm not saying that, for those who like what they got now, that's you, that's your taste, but mine is more akin to what I grew up listening to. And I grew up listening to a lot of Al Green and Marvin Gaye. I've listened to a lot of oldies. So it's like, I'm okay with it. Really. It's like, Al Green. It's this, it's that. You know, it's basically the stuff you would listen to if you just sounded like you needed to hear it. And most times, you know, whenever you kind of listen to Al Green, you're either thinking you're depressed or something, or you know, you're in a mood. Not to me. I just like listening to that sort of music. It doesn't bug me, so that's the thing. I also grew up with gospel, so therefore, you know, me singing in the choir, yeah, it's something that's basically like grew up I grew up around, you know. I grew up around, you know, a southern family. At one point in my life I did stay with my grandparents in Louisiana. God rest their souls. And basically, you know, my grandma, mama, she basically loved Baptist music. I mean, you know, along with, you know, my aunts, they basically, it's in the blood, you know. That's all I can say. It's in the blood. It's funny just looking at it now that really it's been like what 32, yeah 32, yeah 32 years. It's been 32 years since I thought about my dad. Funny thing, in some form, I feel that everything that is happening to me, it's like it sort of coming together in some way. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like me remembering my dad. It says something. It speaks to me. Because if it weren't from him, if it really weren't for him, because he knew how to handle people, then, you know, he basically told me on the phone, he said, boy, somebody gets in your face, you knock them square the hell out. That's nice. Anyway, that's just a random comment from another video I was looking at earlier. 2 seconds. Didn't miss anything. Anyway, what I was saying before was it was through my dad that taught me how to defend myself. I learned how to fear from someone who was, well, someone who was taller than me. But at the same time, the authority thing, respect the authority. And my dad had that authority when he was alive. He showed it to say, oh, every time we had Jehovah's Witnesses on the block, he telling them to get the hell off our property. It's like my mom. She has this anger too, but it's more that anger that you have that feeling that once she turns it on, you back away. But the way she did is like she spoke very softly, and then she turned it on. And when she told you to go, you go. You don't stay around. You go. And that's why I did. I could say, you know, being an artist on the music side, I'm not perfect, not in any stretch of the imagination. But sometimes while I'm in church, I do think of a beat in my head that I want to play for, Tuesday. And I usually have therapy every Tuesday around noon. So it's like I'm playing something off in my head that is just like very catchy, very toony, very, very on point rhythm. And when I'm not doing that, it's like there's a certain song I want to share sometimes. So therefore, it's like, it's in my head. I gotta play it. It's like you hum it once, it lives rent free forever in your head. The last thing I did, and I can't believe this actually worked at my last therapy session. I actually played Daddy Molk from the Ninja Warriors. And me and my therapist, we were doing the piece. I was playing the track itself, and we were doing the piece. And I just felt this click, like, oh, yeah, this is nice. Because there's sometimes I like to just come out and say, well, look, most people don't know about this, and da 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 da. It's not saying I'm flexing what I know. It's like, well, most people do not know this kind of information. They really don't, and it's a shame. But I'm sharing this to you because I'm opening up. I'm talking to other people. I'm becoming somebody more than I am. It's even what I'm doing with my book. Right now I'm going through some kind of change, and one of the various changes happens to be with my book. I want to basically bring it back, but do things a lot differently. I'd want to basically present myself to other people. Show what I can do outside of, being in the choir. Basically give myself more exposure in the quote unquote public eye, as it were. And it's an interesting thing because of that. For the most part, what I'm doing right now, and it's funny. It's really funny that I'm trying to rebuild myself in a way. It's through my dad. You want to know how I got my alter ego from, strangely and oddly enough, came from my dad. And it happened through, after his death, I had a dream about him. And he showed up in said dream. And he just showed me this, I don't know, this gold armor, and basically just gave it to me. And for what it's worth, it gave me the idea of what my alter ego is and my future self. A lot of things were going through my head. My persona. I don't know. It was a lot that was going on because, during that time, during the summer, that's when I lost my dad during June. When I lost my dad, it basically was like I was I couldn't see what was going on because my mom blocked me from actually wanting to see what happened. And I remember it just like yesterday. It was just like this room that I sleep in now is basically the same room that my dad passed away in. And there are times that I do want to hear from him. That I want to hear him say, boy, and that little laugh he does. Because the funny thing about him is he used to watch cartoons. And one of his favorite cartoons was Roadrunner. And every time he laughed, he's like, it's like, Paul Rugg from the Hillbilly Bears. It sounded kind of like that. He also, in life, played Pac-Man, which is oddly enough where I have the love of Pac-Man enrooted in me because of that. But it's through my mom that actually is the reason why I do underrated games now, because through her, I basically learned other games outside of Mario and Zelda. So it's like I covered a lot of games. What does this mean? It means a lot of things. In hindsight, I never thought my dad would actually influence me to where an instrument that he played right alongside Fats Domino with, that my uncle actually played and made a bestseller off it, and who knows where the hell else my family is. Let alone if they know I exist, or they remember my father or my mother. But at least I actually have a picture of him that can actually be added to the many different people who have passed on in my family. And at least now I can not forget my dad, because his influence reached mine for so long after playing the drums. Be it the festival drums, the buffalo drum, or even the xylophone. I'm just like, it just really just woke something up in me I never thought I'd feel again in this regards to my dad. I can actually say I really do feel better after seeing how my dad was when he was younger. Because, the last time I actually seen him, his eyes were very bloodshot because, he used to drink. And I often think, had things were different, like if either my mom or dad, or hell, even both of them, if they really just went right into the music industry, and they probably dragged me into it, or I probably find myself into the music industry, or maybe even into, say, doing fine arts. I kind of wonder about that. Even earlier today, I often thought about that. If I wasn't here in California, if my dad stayed alive a little longer and pretty much see me graduate at least that much, would things have different? Would things be different if I wasn't in California? Would I still be getting a would I still be hooked up to the internet? Would I still be, still doing what I'm doing now? I probably would say yeah, but I would probably be in a better place mentally, as far as I'm concerned. Because when he passed away, oh, I was in a very, very, very dark place, and it wasn't pretty. It really wasn't. It was just like, and I could say it was basically one of those moments in which I was really in a dark, dark, one of the darkest places in my life. More so than, well, when I was married. But it was like really, really dark. And it took one game to actually get me out of that. Really, it took me one game. It took one game to actually get me out of that dark place. Because just to remind you, 13 going on 14. I had just recently lost a father. It bugged me to no end, and it was, I was going through changes. So, you know, yeah, the game I played was Lunar, back when I actually had a Sega CD, and it actually saved my life. It actually made me feel again. It actually made me just like it brought me back. A lot of things that happened is like fantasy really brought me back. Music brought me back to where I was going, and it was like a very dark, cold, scary place. It was like a wasteland. It really was like, I don't like this place. And if it weren't for what my dad did when I had that dream about him, and usually it happens like this: whenever I see somebody from my family in my dream, it usually means something. So it's like if I see my dad in my dream, it means something. If I see my mom in my dream, and she's mouthing something to me, it means something. If I see my grandparents in my dream, it means, it means a whole lot of things. If I see the most principal people that really affected my life in my dreams, they usually mean something. What they mean, I don't know, but it usually means something. It's like, okay, it might be prophetic. I don't know what it is, but it's like it usually speaks to me. It might not be in the way I get it, but it's like the message is there. It's just like, okay, it means one thing and another thing, but it is what it is. But seeing my dad like this, as he was, it gives me hope. And I'm glad I actually still have a picture of my dad around. For it gives me hope to remember, oh hey, you are a part of this family. Don't ever forget that. That's the one thing that's like, it's just like, it's a reminder. You are a part of this family. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So if you do have, for those out there who still have their fathers, please, not even just fathers, but grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and so forth. Hell, even your uncles. You let them know how much you mean to them. Just like with Mother's Day, with your mothers, grandmothers, aunties, great aunties, and whatnot. You let them know how much you appreciate them. As I appreciate still being around, still being able to do something, despite my physical hardships. As long as I can basically do something, as long as I can still be above ground and make every day count, well, it does mean a lot. So with that, I have been your friendly neighborhood Tenkaichi. And with that, I wish everyone a great and wonderful Father's Day. From my house to yours. Thank you. I'll see you next time.